Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 175 of the Pop Culture History Podcast. My name is Mike Larkin, and as always, I am joined by the one, the only, a woman who is jealous of my dancing skills, Miss Brittany Savage. Brittany, how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay, hanging in best as I can during this time. It's the weekend. It's good. It's, woke up today and just the whole nine. So trying to stay positively proactive as we all are.
For sure. It's Saturday. Just remember.
That it is. Now, our guest today is none other than former Starlet champion, NYWC Tag Team champion, La Femme champion. She has been in Warriors of Wrestling all over the place. The one and only Black Rose herself, Miss Nikki Addams. Nikki, it is a pleasure to have you on the show. I know it's been a while. How are you surviving during this time?
I'm doing pretty well. We're making the best of it. I'm working. I am an essential worker, hanging in there. They've extended the quarantine, but New York is New York strong, and we're hanging in there.
That is true. As a fellow New Yorker, I can also agree with those sentiments. And first and foremost, I know I said it before we came on, but Nikki Addams, you and Candy Cartwright, the cutie pie herself, Empire Tag Team Champions. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I wish she was here with me, but I would have her be doing this interview with me, but she is not with me tonight.
That is all right. Well, definitely, the cutie pie Candy Cartwright is always welcome on this show. One of the absolute best. And I'm going to say this right now. As a male and as a gentleman who loves professional wrestling, and I will say this, I've not actually admitted this a lot on a lot of shows, but going through life, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, on and off, I've dealt with depression, and I gotta say, pro wrestling and music and pop culture has saved my life going through the tough times. And I will say this, I actually like to thank the both of you for being a part of that, just because professional wrestling has gotten me through those tough times, and I gotta say to both of you, thank you for getting me through those tough times.
Oh, well, I'm really glad to hear that we've been able to help you through. Like, it's always nice when you know that you've had an impact on someone in a positive way. I'm very glad to hear that you are
No,
doing better.
oh, thank you. I'll be honest with you. I was always that kid that loved professional wrestling. But as a kid, as we all know this, you get teased and stuff. But after a while, you just, who cares? But I got to say, through those tough times, I got to say, I got to thank you both because as a New Yorker growing up 15 minutes from the Deer Park Sportatorium, the Deer Park Community Center, NYWC, you two are that Starlets division. So I always enjoyed both of your runs as Starlet champion and just the two of you because I'll say this right now. You two have had some of the best matches and a great dynamic with each other.
Wow,
Right.
Mike, thank you so much. That is a major compliment. I do
Well,
think that Brittany and I had a great time in our matches. I mean, I always enjoyed them.
Yeah, they were always so much fun. Like he and I have spoken about it numerous times on a call. So I figured I would let you hop in. Yeah, they were definitely some of the best times in wrestling.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. And as she said, and as we're all giving compliments here, it's well deserved because I'll be honest with you, like I've told you, Britt, I remember first seeing you involved with NYWC, doing the interviewing stuff with Alex Reynolds. I'm sorry match with Maxwell Belvedere. And of course, your match with Beth on SmackDown. And then this badass over here comes in. We got the Order of the Black dropping them tombstones on people's heads, noggin knockers. Violet Steven will be here all day. So, I mean, you kind of, again, first Starlet champ, Order of the Black, Nikki Addams. I was hooked from the first time I saw you, man.
Wow. I don't know what else to say except for thank you. That is
Well,
really
I
nice.
mean,
That
I'll be
was like the
honest with you.
beginning.
It's the presentation for me because, like I said, you have this badass unit that is the Order of the Black. God rest his soul, Crusher Dugan, Dickie Rods, Apollyon. We're talking about Stockade. There was a lot of imposable forces, and then we have this badass over here that is you, Miss Black Rose, from Nikki Six to Nikki Addams. I mean, that's just like the start the tenure for me. Like again, as a high school kid coming out of high school, coming out of East Islip High School, doing my thing. Like I loved going to those shows, and NYWC was an integral part of a lot of the Long Island community professional wrestling. And of course, we've had Creative Pro and FTW and Warriors of Wrestling come into the fold, but NYWC will always have that place in the hearts of Long Islanders.
That's definitely true. I mean, everyone knows on Long Island that knows independent wrestling and people that want to train, you always think of NYWC. They have a great reputation. And I was very fortunate to train there because maybe I wouldn't have been so successful if I had picked somewhere else to go originally.
Of course, and I think you look at that school with who it's produced from, like your ladies. Of course, I'm going to incorporate you in this, but your Brian Myers, your Brett Matthews, Kurt Hawkins, and Zack Ryder, and I mean from Bull Dempsey, from the list goes on and on. Matt Stryker, from Mike Mondo, like the NYWC has really encompassed for New York and Long Island the professional wrestling realm. I remember it being featured on Holy Foley when Noelle Foley was training to become a wrestler. So I mean, it has that significance to it. And for me, I remember the days of Papa Don before he was a Greek god, and Havoc and John the Sure Thing Shane and Javier, and we'll be here all day. The list goes on and on. But it's those moments that encaptured you. Like my first event was the 2006 or 2007 Psycho Circus, and then I was at the one where Hawkins and Ryder left. So I mean, there's so many moments that happen in those buildings in the Deer Park facilities.
That is definitely true. I mean, NYWC has produced so much talent that has had so much success. They really are a very well-known school on Long Island, and like fortunately they keep in touch with all those people. They also had Tony Nese and Alex Reynolds as well to pass on all the knowledge to up and coming talent. So they really do have a lot that they could pass on to all of like the students over the years, and I was fortunate enough to learn from pretty much each and every single one of them a little bit here and there. So it was overall, like, I think it was what started me to actually be successful, because in the beginning you always wonder, like, you want to do something and then it's like, are you going to stick it out? And there was no way I would with that.
Oh, of course. And for me, it's one of those things where, like, I remember the first time I saw, oh my goodness, like with the Starlet division, like we mentioned, like I remember you being in it, Britt, you, Nikki, Violet Stevens, who I mentioned, and then I mean, from list goes on and on, from Willow Nightingales. I mean, J Red was the NYWC Starlet champ for his time. Deanna Perrazzo getting in there. I mean, there were so many people that came through that Starlet division. Victoria Von Black, the Devil Doll. So I mean, it's great just to see from the inception with the three of you ladies, and then to see who's come through in that Starlet division. Samantha Pickles, of course. So I mean, it's great just to see the women's division there. And I'll be honest, when I first heard the term Starlet, I liked it because it was something different. Now you hear the terms like Divas, Women's Champion, the whole thing that really encompasses the women's division and professional wrestling all in itself. But for me, I always thought the Starlet name was very cool, and you ladies lived up to the division and the great division that it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So
It's true, and I'll be honest with you, ladies. I'm going to say this first and foremost, Brittany Savage. I'm going to start with this on you because, I mean, you and Nikki have obviously we talked about the matches that you've had, but whether it's you two are like side by side or against each other, it's one of those things where, like, for me as a fan, I'm invested in the characters as well. Like we got you, Nikki, the badass, the Order of the Black, Racket Sack with you and Dickie Rods, which still cracks me up to this day, that name, and the great team that you were. Then you got you, Savage, over here just being your overall badass yourself, your sassy self, if you will, type of the Mean Girls type of thing. Write it in your burnt book, baby. Like the character development from you two, like I said, from both sides of the spectrum, it was just a great to watch.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And Nikki, like for instance, like I had to commend you on that. From going from the Order of the Black to Rack and Sack, and you and Dickie Rods. Like I'll be honest with you, the Dickie Rods Mason Rage feud was all the rage, pun intended. Back in the day, man, I'm sitting there in the Deer Park Community Center. I'm watching guys like him. I'm watching Jamie Van Leemer, Dan Dynasty. The list goes on and on. But just to see what you two did as the tag champs at Rack and Sack, those are some good times back there. And again, the name. And also, speaking of names, the Pocket Rocket was one of the best names for a famous sir that I've ever seen in my life, encompassed with Dickie Rods. But for me, I always enjoyed the Rack and Sack team that you and Dickie had, stemming off of we have the Order of the Black, but the chemistry you two had as a tag team.
I mean, you think about it, they're literally polar opposites. So, I mean, I went from like completely one type of character to a complete other one. And even though like being in the tag team was kind of like silly, it was still serious at the same time. So overall, I just think it was a good balance. And like at the same time, we had a great time.
Oh, great. I mean, I could also encompass that as well because for me, again, as a fan, I'm weird a little. I'll admit that I'm a little weird. I like my uniqueness about it. So if you could go from like a dark character that you have at the Order of the Black to the entertaining side, if you're emotionally invested, whether it be good, sad, bad, mad, indifferent, like for me, I'm hooked, and I think a lot of wrestling fans can attest to that because I mean, you can work, you'll be in some situations and circumstances where it's like, but I think whatever you do, you make it work. For God's sake, Dusty Rhodes wore polka dots, yellow polka dots, the American Dream, common man, Dusty Rhodes. If he can make that work, anybody can really make it work with what they have. I mean, Brodus Clay, for God's sake, when he had that build up, I am the beginning, I am the end. Then here comes Somebody Call My Mama, tons of funk. Like I was laughing, I was dancing to it. But there's a lot of ways that you can emotionally invest in a character and really portray your character. I think you did that to the best of your abilities, and you did that throughout your career.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, it was very interesting because obviously, like, when I started out, I was definitely a heel. And, like, it was a little tricky at first to try to get used to wrestling as a babyface and doing a whole different, like, direction and gimmick. But, I think overall it was a good experience because that's when I learned, like, obviously, the more you can do and the more you have to offer, the better you are. So it opened my horizon, and I just tried to learn as much as I could from each experience.
Oh, of course. And I mean, I'm all about that. I mean, Brittany Sabbath, I've talked to you about this with your babyface and heel run. Like, you had that, and I'm not teasing here on this one. I'm actually being very serious. It's one of those things where, like, I can see, like, that influence and that flux of sassiness and Mean Girl, which I like. You were kind of like the epitome of every female in a teen movie that was like the bully, the cheerleader, the whole nine, the girl all the bad guys want. Dare I quote American Hi-Fi and the new guy, for God's sake. DJ Qualls, I digress. It's one of those things where I can invest in your character as well, and also from a babyface standpoint, the white meat babyface, the overall babyface factor that you had. So, I mean, either way, you played your character to the best of your abilities as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Now, moving on here, I got to say this because we're talking about you two as opponents, you two, whether you're together. And I brought this up and I talked about this with Nikki before we came on air. We have to discuss it because I said you all did it to the best of your abilities. The BCW promo with Candy Cartwright. I'm just getting this out of the way just because we got to talk about this here because no, and I'm serious about this before we get laughing. Nikki, you had that intensity, which I loved. I just watching you twirl was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. And then Candy Cartwright did the absolute best thing with encompassing the fact of, Faye's booty, the whole nine there. I'll put it like that. But I got to say, you both made chicken salad out of chicken shit, as I told Nikki. So I just wanted to get that out of the way because you both did. Go ahead, please.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Nikki, go ahead.
I haven't actually watched that in a very long time. I do remember it, and I remember it being quite amusing because, I don't know. We did the best we could with that.
That's really all that you can do. And I'm going to say this from a fan's perspective, whether it be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or whether it be an interviewer perspective. Like, you make the most out of the time you have, and I think you both did that in that promo. And Candy Cartwright is another one. We talk about her being the cutie pie. But she is also great with her character, her facials, the whole nine. And from a wrestling standpoint, I mean, from Shine, from NYWC, FTW, and teaming with yourself, Miss Addams, y'all just have that great chemistry. Like, I could watch your stuff all day, and I truly mean that. Like, but for what you're doing with Candy now, I love, and I just had to put that over because whether you two are opponents, because you all have faced each other in some capacity over the years, I got to say, you and Candy make a hell of a team, Nikki.
Oh, thank you. I think the benefit of that is because we've worked each other so many times that we know each other very well, and the same with Brittany. Brittany and I think tagged a couple of times, at least once, and after getting to know each other so well, I think it really benefits you.
It does.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've worked each other, whether it was together or against each other, numerous times, more than like both of my hands. Or I feel like we've definitely worked maybe like 10 times, some sort of way. Whether it was we were valeting against each other or something, we were like we had that chemistry, like you said.
Oh. Yeah, we hit it off very well, like straight from the beginning.
Yeah,
for sure. And I'll be honest with you, like, it's funny because what I always loved about having you two on the show with interviews and what we're doing now, which we'll get into some pop culture in a little bit, it's one of those things where I love giving people the platform to tell their stories, and it's always a blessing. It's always a pleasure and a privilege. But Brittany, what you did, you always got something going on, whether it be wrestling or what have you, and it's always fun, and I truly mean that. But for you, Nikki, every time I always had you on the show, they'll always be progressing. I would see more stuff in your career from Warriors of Wrestling. Like, I've seen the cage match with Nyla Rose. I've seen your stuff with Katrin. I've seen your stuff with Victor Victoria, which absolutely was amazing because, she comes out to, all the things she said by tattoo. Y'all had that great match. Then she comes back out and Widow peeks you at the end and then apologizes, which still cracks me up to this day. It's one of those things where you get to have a lot of great matches with great opponents like the Victorias, like the Nyla Rose, who's doing her thing now as a part of All Elite Wrestling. Like for me, you were always on the grind, and that's why I always loved interviewing you, because just to see your progression from Women of Honor as well, which I was so happy to see you get that Women of Honor matchup in there as well. Like you just, like I said, I was always enjoying watching to see you progress and just to see where you are today.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I mean, it's tough. Like, women's wrestling is very tough. You have to be on the grind. I mean, Brittany can tell you the same thing. Like, you need to be on the grind so you could get that respect and, like, have people consider you, not just, you want to be considered a wrestler, not just a women's wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this about going back to you, Savage, because when it comes to talking about women's wrestling or just being known as a wrestler, I will say this. It's one of those things where it doesn't matter what you're doing. Like for me, when it comes to professional wrestling, always seeing you progress from WSU to NYWC to whatever you do. Like, I'll be honest with you, some of the Beer Belly Bandits, it's some of my favorite comedy stuff, and I'm entertained from top to bottom of what you guys did. It's one of those things where when I watched you in the ring, it's one of those things that, okay, I'll admit this, because when I was a kid, I hated when the guys used to, like, go to the bathroom and would say it's a piss break match and just kind of devalue women's wrestling, because, I mean, from the physical standpoint, we got two beautiful women on the line, and I truly mean that. But I always respected the time, the effort, and what just overall work that you put into the ring. And it's great to see women main eventing WrestleMania, main eventing, what have you, from your Shimmers, from your Rises, from your Shines, from Warriors of Wrestling. I just love seeing women being the forefront and getting the abilities that they have to showcase them now in longer matchups and feuds, and just being overall the focal point of said show. So I got to say thank you both for being a part of that trailblazing movement.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. But no, it's true. I mean, like I said, as a man who most of his life was raised by a great mother, and my grandmother, God rest her soul, I've always appreciated the work of art that women were. And I always just enjoyed, like, just professional wrestling as a whole. It didn't matter if it was a women's wrestler or a man's wrestler. I always had the mindset of it's professional wrestling. There's sacrifice that goes into it. You got great training schools on Long Island. Like we mentioned, NYWC, Creative Pro, which, Nikki, you've had a lot of great matches of as well. I got to give Creative Pro a shout out because you've killed it in Creative Pro, which I love to death. Kurt Hawkins' school. Wrestle Pro, what have you. Northeast is a hotbed, but for me, it's one of those things where just getting the proper training, going in there, kicking ass, taking names. It's a beautiful thing. It really just makes professional wrestling fun and the great sport that it is. And I'm going to use the term sport and art form that it is. Go ahead, lady.
Go ahead, Nikki. I'll let you go first.
Well, first, I would like to say thank you for giving me like the shout out, and also for my work at Creative Pro. I do appreciate that. Everywhere I work, I mean, I really do try to put my best effort forward. I mean, you're always given, to me, wrestling is always a challenge. You want to have the best matches possible. You want to be able to work well with your opponents, and produce the best possible result. That's always been my goal, no matter where I go. And like, especially over the years, like in the beginning of NYWC, I was still very new. So, over the years, obviously I've progressed and fortunately have learned more along the way. And I think as time has went on, I think my matches, like, you can see obviously the progression over the years. And I think at Warriors, when I got there, I started to grow. And I think now that I'm at Empower Wrestling, you would think that like you would start to level out, but I think I still have more progress to make, and I think you will see a lot, because the name of the company really says what it is for women's wrestling. It's Empower Wrestling. That's their focus, to put women at the top tier and focus on their wrestling ability. So I mean, that's been a great opportunity, and I look forward to when we actually get the clearance to go back to wrestling, because I mean, you already know, like, me and Candy are the tag team champions, but I just feel like it's definitely a platform for women's wrestling. So it's a great place if you're a woman to be. And I've been very lucky thus far to have gotten the opportunity to be there as well.
And then you have a statement like that with Empower Pro Wrestling. Like, of course. And for me, like, I'll be honest with you, like, one of my favorite matchups, I mean, everybody talks about Lita and Trish from the main event of Raw and being showcased in the focal point. Like, man, some of the stuff that we've seen in Shimmer from, like, your Mercedes Martinez, from each and everybody that stepped in through Shimmer, from your Becky Lynch's and your Pages, of course. It's one of those things, like, you talk about Empower, like, I love seeing just the women's matches being some of the focal points on that. And I loved what the overall brand and the company represents. Like for me, I'll be honest, one of them that really stuck out for me that I saw a couple of years ago was Sue Young, who Brittany, you have had the chance to be in the ring with and work with, and Soraya Knight, the mother of Paige. Like, for God's sake, man, like watching that woman who's just a badass doing her thing against Sue Young. And we brought this name up as well, Brittany, in the last show we did, Sumi Sakai. Sumi Sakai, my God, for a woman that's been there from like starting in the late 90s to Women of Honor to just all over the place. Sumi Sakai is another one that kills it for me that I love her work. Like for me, just seeing a lot of women like this showcased and focused and the overall statement behind the brand name like that, like for me, that's something I'm all about. So I got to say, you and Candy are holding it down as the tag champs, and I got to also give a shout out to that promotion because Empower, man, it says it right there, like you mentioned. But I mean, we got some talent out there, and I love seeing talent on the independent scene. Support your local indies, what have you. Just grow and blossom into the performers that they are, and you are an exemplary, case of that, Nikki.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I wish that promotion would have been around years ago because I think, Brittany, you'd probably agree that women really needed those opportunities then.
Oh, for sure.
I think that it would have been a game changer at the time. Would have finally showcased us all on the level that, women deserve to be.
Definitely.
Okay. I don't recall if I told this story on the last one we did, but I'll tell it now that we got Nikki on the line. So, as a kid growing up on Long Island, some of my favorite stuff, and I love my dad for this because I actually remember this like it was yesterday. So, my dad said to me, and it's funny because my mom used to work at the Westbury Music Fair over there at Westbury in the box office, and my grandmother and my aunt wanted to go see, out of all the names here, Engelbert Humperdinck. And my mom gave me a choice because my dad had tickets. Do you want to go see Engelbert Humperdinck or do you want to go to Sports Plus and Ring of Honor? I will take choice 2, please. So we go. So we go to nothing against Engelbert Humperdinck, but goddamn. So we go to Ring of Honor Sports Plus. Obviously, you got the whole thing in Lake Grove, New York. You got a little game room down there. Get yourself a pizza pie. Hello, it's good times. Then you go up to the ballroom, right? Now, for me, getting to see Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon, and James Gibson, aka Jamie Noble, for the Ring of Honor World Title. Getting to see people like Jay Lethal and Low-Ki go at it, or Homicide and Colt Cabana at the time. For me, I was just getting introduced to Ring of Honor, and I love seeing Ring of Honor, how it's progressed. And this is where I'd like to incorporate the women here, because I remember, and Nikki, you've been in the ring with her as well, man, Sarah Del Rey and Daisy Hayes just getting the chance to work on those shows and absolutely kill it. I didn't care who was on it, from Rain, from Sarah Del Rey, from Daisy Hayes. That the women that you got on there, those women's matches from Shimmer, I mean, we could be here all day. Mischief is another one that I recall. Like the Shimmer division, watching those matches and Ring of Honor, regardless of what they have, like the time that they did in WWE at the time, like it was night and day. So Shimmer is another one that I shout out because I remember as a 13-year-old kid watching those matches until this day, some of my favorite matches in that building.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, it's one of those things where I can absolutely attest to on that because, like I said, back in the day, watching those Shimmer matches, just to see how far we've come from, my goodness, 2005 to watching those matches, giving the time that they had, and just seeing you guys do your thing. Like I said, it's a great progression and revolution/evolution of what we've seen in women's wrestling. Go ahead, Nikki.
I agree. I mean, I used to watch all those matches all the time. It was the best way to learn because you knew if you wanted to be able to get into the ring with any of those women that you needed to be watching them and learning from them because they were and they still are, like, they had all that success. So, like, you would want to keep track of them and watch and see what you could learn and pick up from them. And then when I got to work with Sarah Del Rey, I mean, that was an amazing opportunity. She was so nice, so easy to work with, and like she wanted you to do well. She wanted to work with you and like make sure you had the best match possible for that experience.
Oh man, I got to tell you something. I'll be honest with you, Nikki. That's one of those matches that I actually go back to. I keep a lot of like some of my favorite matches on there. The Sarah Del Rey one is definitely in my list. So, like I said, I loved watching that match with yourself and Sarah. And for me, as far as Sarah goes, I mean, you have one of the best trainees there for WWE just to learn from and experience, like you mentioned, an overall class act. And for me, like I always loved her work with her and Courtney Rush, who would go on to be Rosemary. It's one of those things, man, where just when you find someone that actually has a mind and has that respect and decorum for professional wrestling, it's wonderful and it's a great learning experience.
I definitely agree because I mean that was like I mean then she was wrestling but she like you knew she would be a good teacher, so it's like when she finally got like that opportunity in that position it made sense, and like you could see the impact that she has on everybody that she works with.
Oh, of course. And for me, I will also add to this just because it's one of those moments that I always remember, whether it be you and Sarah Del Rey, but I also enjoyed, like, you've done a lot of great promo work as well. And Britt and I were actually talking about this because I'll be honest with you, I can't sing worth a damn, but I remember one of the promos, and we actually were discussing this, and the promo
Yeah.
came into my head. We were talking about this. I think it was against another former Starlet champion, Aria Cadenza. I think you guys got on like a little singing thing. I think it was around the holidays. I remember you singing the promo. She did her thing because she could sing. The girls got pipes, but you did a great job as well.
Those were fun. Those were fun. Those were a lot of fun. Like we were enjoying ourselves. You know, like she is a genuine, a legitimate opera singer, so she can definitely sing. And you know, why not utilize that? I love Christmas. I sing Christmas songs when I get a chance. So I was like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do now.
Well, I got to tell you, from top to bottom, I was entertained with both of you, what both of you ladies did, because again, I'm a Christmas guy. I'm in the Christmas spirit, one of my favorite holidays. So, I mean, it's a time of giving, it's a time of joy. What a great time to sing Christmas carols! And I mean, of course, being Christmas, just besides being the season of giving, Christ is born, the spiritual side of things. There's something that just resonates with everybody with that holiday. You know, it's good times. You know what I'm saying? Be kind to one another. It's very merry and bright like Christmas. Hello. So I mean, it's one of those things where I can absolutely agree, and I can tell you had a lot of fun doing that. So I just want to say that's one of my favorites of yours.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was definitely a blast, and she was a lot of fun.
And it's one of those things too. I think there was also one I remember. Like I know you both have been in the ring with Angelina Love, and I remember the one you, Nikki. I think you maybe had like a couple of drinks while you were doing it. You were having a lot of fun with that promo. That was another one. I remember the promo on Angelina Love was a big one. Obviously, you getting to work her, and I know you wrestled Ray Lynn not too long ago. But Angelina Love is another one that sticks out there. Again, great character work, the heel work and the beautiful people, the Botox injection, what have you, however you wanted to find those maneuvers. But Angelina Love is another one that I can invest to, and man, I can either hate or I can either love. And she's another one that I always appreciated for her work as well.
I agree. I mean, she really is so talented. She has like she's always had so much to offer. I mean, I think you know if you think back to like when it was like TNA, I think the knockouts really set the bar high for women's wrestling.
Mhm.
I think she has done so much and continues to do so much. So like when you want to like she was a good person to look up to, like you know if you wanted to succeed, someone that you wanted to try to learn from and follow as well. And just so we can clear up, just all these years later, that was water in my glass.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I would have never been able to do that promo correctly if anything else was in there.
Hey, man. But still, water, regardless, water aside, it was still a very entertaining promo. And I liked your energy in that one too. Like I said, you always pull off a lot of great energy with your promos, and I dig it. So it was very good.
Oh, thank you very much. I really do try to be as entertaining and as yeah, I try to be entertaining and make sure people are looking forward to seeing the match that's coming up.
Now, you, Miss Brittany Savage, you and Angelina Love have had some great work as well. I got to say, here's the thing about you. It's both sass, you know what I'm saying? It's both a lot of sass, the beautiful people side of things. I mentioned the Burnt Book and Mean Girls, but you two have also had some great matches and a lot of great build with your promos. I also got to give you your props on that one, Miss Savage.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I didn't really have the opportunity to have a singles match with Angelina. I actually never had a match with her. I actually wrestled against Velvet Sky, and Angelina was out ringside with her at that time. Angelina actually ended up wrestling Rick Cataldo when we were part of the Cosmo Club.
Ah.
Yeah. So I haven't had the actual opportunity to work with her. Oh, actually, that's a lie. Yes, I did. I did in Ohio. I had a tag match with my ex at the time. He and I tagged together against Angelina and Robbie E. So yes, we did. I forgot about that.
By the way, on a side note here, that's another name from NYWC. Here's the thing. Like, I remember Mr. Robbie E, now Rob Stone on NXT. It's one of the funny things because I remember watching him and Billy Bax, for those that remember that name, him and Billy Bax as a tag team, him and Matt Stryker as a tag team. That's another dude that's come a long way with his Jersey Shore persona and obviously the Rob Echoes name. I remember him getting squashed on SmackDown by Mark Henry. It's one of those things where I always liked his work as well. I mean, he's another one that's very underrated in what he does.
Yeah, you had the Echo brothers, him and Dan Echoes.
Yep.
Echoes is actually a referee now for WWE. So yeah.
See, it all comes full circle. It really does. It really does.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, just had to give Robbie E the props on that one because yeah, a lot of people, sometimes disregard that. But Stryker was another one too. Like I remember Stryker against, oh my God, Joey Brajol before Apollyon was Apollyon, Joey Brajol and him and Mega were oh God. See, now I'm taking myself back with this and I'm just smiling from ear to ear with this. But no, like I gotta say, just those times, those great memories from NYWC, and again encompassing both you ladies in this, like. I'll be honest with you, like some of the starlet, like we mentioned before, like yourselves, Violet Stevens, Willow Nightingale, like there's a lot of great women that have gone on to like WoW and Nikki, like we mentioned, your Women of Honor stuff and Warriors of Wrestling. You Savage being yourself and being your trailblazing self as well. Like I gotta say, as someone who's a fan of the independent circuit and indie wrestling, like some of those are just great times just to see on the Northeast and what have you. Like I said, I can't put it over and I can't be more gracious and respectful to a lot of people that put the time and work and effort.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, like Nikki said before, like, nowadays it's not like easier. It's just there's more opportunity out there for women. I feel like definitely back in the day, a lot of these women helped pave the way for what is women's wrestling right now. I mean, we put in just the same amount of work as men do. We train the same amount of times. We train just as hard as men. And then we're working, well, not me anymore, but you're working on the road like 3-4 times a week or a weekend and you're having X amount of matches. Like just because you have a show doesn't mean you're doing one match. Like there's been times I wrestled 4 times in one day. So I mean you're still putting in the work. I'm just happy to see that women's wrestling is being more appreciated now than it was back in the day.
Oh, I agree 100%. Like there is nobody refers to it as the bathroom break anymore. And
Yep.
like I think that's what all we're waiting for and looking forward to, where it finally gets the credit and respect it deserves.
Yeah, exactly.
You see, people, I'm going to say this right now, and I truly mean this. Like, you two are like two of my favorites when it comes to women's wrestling, and I truly mean that. And I'll say it all in all, repetition, on and on to the break of dawn. But it's one of those things where I also got to say this just because you mentioned the bathroom break, and you really cannot say that. And what's interesting about it is you were talking about doing 4 matches in one night. It's like you hear in like the 80s and 90s when you're doing like hour Broadways, like continuous night after night after night. I mean, listening to Ric Flair talk about it, it's like, my God, it just shows the overall work and overall effort that goes into the business. And I'll even say this right now, like I love me some professional wrestling. I watch everything every week, and I've been obsessed with it since I was 10 years old, and just having the passion to do what I do and interview great talents like yourself is a blessing, to reiterate that point. But it's one of those things where I just enjoy, like with the dark side of the ring, also getting to learn about the business beyond the mat and to an extent the wrestler with Mickey Rourke. But watching, I don't know if you guys have seen it, Nikki, I don't know if you've seen it as well, but some of the dark side of the ring episodes really gives you a great insight about professional wrestling and learning some of the ins and outs of it.
Yeah, I got to see some of them recently, and that is definitely true. You get to learn a lot, I guess, regarding the actual business, and you actually start to learn actually about the people themselves. And I think sometimes, you know, it's nicer to know that people get humanized, if that makes sense, in like some of the cases, because I think people forget sometimes that people are people.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I'm going to say this right now. So I always use this as an example just because, I mean, you get teased as a kid, but people go and watch your way with Don't Call Me Fake with the Dr. David Schultz one because, my God, it makes me hate John Stossel even more than I already did because he's just such a son of a bitch. And also just Dr. David Schultz being the tough guy that he is. Like, that's one of my favorites. The Benoit one was very interesting and intriguing. I got to say, watch this season's Dark Side of the Ring. The latest one with Herb Abrams, my God, what that guy did, good Lord. But I got to say, I'm really enthralled. I'm very, I'm very, like, I'm intrigued. Like the Dino Bravo one was a very sad one. I'm not trying to spoil it for everybody, but go out of your way to see Dark Side of the Ring. I think you can agree with me on that, Nikki Addams.
Definitely. I mean, I definitely think it's something that people should check out, especially if they're in wrestling or they're a wrestling fan. I haven't gotten a chance to see every single one of them, but the ones I've seen thus far really are eye-opening.
That's true. I got to get caught up on a couple ones too. I mean, I know New Jack is one that's on there. There's a couple of them I have to keep an eye on. But yeah, Brittany Savage, have you seen any? And if you've not, you should check out a couple of them.
Yeah, I have not
Okay,
seen any
well,
of them.
Nikki and I will put a little stamp of approval on it and just say check it out when you can because there's some interesting stuff.
For sure.
All right. Now, I have to also mention this as well. One of your other opponents, Miss Nikki Addams and Brittany Savage, you are also have been with some interactions with her as well. Like, I saw the stuff that you did with Kelly Klein. Speaking of great singers, Kelly Klein, amazing talent from Ring of Honor, Mary Elizabeth Monroe, trained with Les Stature, and the whole nine there. For me, I got to say this, and I truly mean this. Like, watching you and Kelly Klein do your thing was absolutely wonderful. And you had a great timing, great dynamic, and I loved watching that match, Nikki.
Oh, that one was like that was I didn't know that match was gonna happen. That kind of was like a spur of the moment thing, like very short notice. But I was very excited because I had worked with Kelly before, and I just knew that like it would like we know each other for a very long time and we get along really well, and we worked very well together. And I think overall, we had a nice match, and I was very thankful for that because we can be our toughest critics, and I remember leaving that one feeling pretty good.
Well, you should because, like I said, rewatching a lot of these matches and giving like a fresher up on on the course of your career. Like I said, y'all pulled it out, and Kelly Klein is another one that I say definitely gets her just due. Former Women of Honor champion, killed it in Madison Square Garden. The feud with the Allure, what she did in Ring of Honor, her tenure, absolutely amazing. Now, Brittany, I know you can attest as someone who's also worked with Kelly.
Yeah, I've only had the opportunity to kind of work with her a little bit. But again, she is actually one of the sweetest women in wrestling. Very kind-hearted. And everything that Nikki said is factual. Again, I haven't really had the opportunity to have an actual match with her, but she is really nice.
Okay. But yes, interactions and working together aside, we're kind of put in the same category, Savage. You could talk about interactions too. It's wonderful. It's a beautiful thing. Exchanging pleasantries, if you will, Miss Brittany Savage.
Well,
So
yeah, I feel like, you can get vibes off of somebody when you meet them. Because, I mean, I'm sure Nikki can agree. You meet a lot of women inside of wrestling, and some of them just aren't very approachable, and some are approachable. So, right then and there, it just tells you what your chemistry is going to be like with that person.
Yeah, I agree. That makes literally all the difference upon like when you
Mhm.
meet someone, especially if you meet someone that day and you're gonna work them that day. Like you will know like right away. And I know Brittany feels the same way. I think kindness is the way to go. Like
Mhm.
I mean, you wanna be friendly, you want to get along, because I think if that's the way, like I think that's how you're going to get your best result and product. Because if you're really in there and you're like butting heads the whole time, how well could that possibly go?
Yep, exactly.
So to add on to what you ladies said, I think it's a united, not divided front. I mean, it takes two to tango. You know what I'm saying? From the psychology standpoint, getting in the ring, you're trusting yourself with your body, and also it's a two-edged sword. You know what I'm saying? It's a two-way street. You both want to have the best matches, and you want to give the best result to the people that pay to see you.
Yep, for sure. Definitely.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's like the overall goal is to be safe and to like put on a good match for people and make people continue to want to see you and come back to the shows. And I just think that I know Brittany feels the same way. We used to talk about it all the time. Women should really be empowering women because if the struggle has been to get women's wrestling in the spotlight and to have it get the respect it deserves, when like you're having a hard time working with someone, or someone doesn't like someone, or someone's too busy trying to tear somebody else down, like that really is going to benefit no one.
Yep.
Now, before we get into the pop culture realm, because you ladies have been doing a lot of beautiful work talking about your careers in professional wrestling, which is one of the things I wanted to encompass in this forum today. Another name we mentioned before, God rest his soul, Crusher Dugan. I got to say, one of the best minds, one of the best managers, and one of the absolute most amazing dudes out there from a professional wrestling standpoint. Now, for you, like I love the work that he did with you in Order of the Black. I think you can attest, and both you can, as far as the training aspect for a mind. Like to reiterate on that point, like he could go, and he was one of the good ones.
He really was one of the good ones. Like you, like when you talk about like truly genuinely kind people, that was
Mm-hmm.
Crusher. Like he wanted to help everybody the best he could always. Like he was always genuine and kind-hearted. Like I did get to train with him. Like he would come down and he really shared so much knowledge with me that I'm so lucky for. And like he would come out to the ring with me and always have my back, and literally, not it's not like he's just there, like literally have your back and always be there with you to help you through whatever situation. And like, you know, you never really had to worry so much. Like, you know, he was always there to make sure everything was going to be okay no matter what. And like he's just irreplaceable.
Yeah, I pretty much feel like he was kind of like the dad of NYWC.
Yeah, I agree. That is so accurate.
It's one of those things, like for me, like obviously I think you can both tell, just besides being a very passionate fan, that I have the respect and the admiration for what you guys and gals do. Like for me, when I got the chance to interview him, I'll be honest with you, he was one that I wanted just because he has so many stories with the Boris Malenko Wrestling Academy and NYWC, the whole nine. But I think one of the funny moments of that, he's like, I could talk a lot. I'm like, dude, it's fine. This platform's about you. Just keep going. I'm here to listen, and we're here to shoot the breeze and have a fun conversation. I always remember that tidbit. That always made me laugh. But no, he was just a good dude that was so professional, so respectful. And again, like you mentioned, the dad of the NYWC, because each and every one of you were like his kids, his children, because he wanted to help each and every one of you out. He wanted to see you all succeed, and he helped train a lot of people that would go on to the WWE, that would be in various promotions that we've seen, from Ring of Honor, AEW, from Impact Wrestling, from the whole standpoint of professional wrestling in various companies. So he has paved and led the way for so many.
He definitely has. And he definitely was there for everybody. It didn't matter if it was wrestling purpose or your personal life. If you had anything going on, he would pull you to the side and have a conversation. And he just knew how to make a person feel better about a situation. And it just, I don't know, he was like the light in a room, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is so accurate. Like that, it really is accurate. Like no matter what was going on, like the goal was to make sure that like you were always okay first. Like
Mm-hmm.
everybody's well-being was the most important thing to him.
Yep.
I think the last thing I'll say about that is him, John the Sure Thing, Shane, and Prince Charles. The three of them always made me laugh from the managerial role, and they always entertained me because I always grouped them together for their knowledge that they all had. And I got to say this in regards to Crusher Dugan: rest in peace, and you will truly be missed.
Yes, definitely will be.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So moving on to some lighter talk here. This is the Pop Culture History Podcast. Now, for me, like I've talked about, again, going through depressing times, going through rough patches in life, and just having music and wrestling being like your outlet, your escape, which a lot of people I'm sure can attest to who listen to this. It's one of those things where like the music and wrestling are very similar, from the touring aspect, from the traveling and the nights on the road and the days and the long roads that take you to various cities, states, what have you. It's similar in a way also because they're both art forms. And for me, I always appreciated the crossover with music and wrestling. Like, for instance, Limp Bizkit's Rollin', being the Undertaker's theme when he was the American Badass, and just the overall crossover between music and wrestling and the similarities. So that I always kind of like geared towards and always kind of like was drawn to as a music and professional wrestling fan. Go ahead, Britt.
Oh, like music wise? Sorry. I was listening to you and I was in such a funk. Um, are you asking me like who my favorite theme is, or?
No, I was going to say, can you agree?
Oh, yeah, no, I can. I was so like in the zone with you talking. Yeah, no, I can definitely agree. Like I said, to be honest, wrestling hasn't so much been my thing as of late. just because I kind of digressed away from the situation. But I still love it. It's not my main focus right now, but definitely music definitely helps me escape when I'm feeling down or anything.
Nikki Addams, go ahead.
I can definitely agree with what Brittany just said. Music is definitely, like, music really helps, I think, in every aspect of life. So, of course, I think it has had a huge impact on professional wrestling as well. I mean, it's what helps you develop who you are. And overall, like, people rely on music for a lot of things in life, to um, get through hard times, to get through good times, to express your mood, for things to relate to. I really do think music is like one of the gateways to life, to get, like, everyone has heard a song that has impacted them greatly in life. Everyone can relate to a song that they've heard, and it's had,
Yep,
like, an influence on them. So, you know.
that is so true.
Now, for me, and we'll talk about our Backstreet Boys love in the pop genre in 2 seconds here. But for me, I can also agree with that because I'll be honest with you, like one of the most underrated Prince songs for me was "Could You Be the Most Beautiful Girl in the World? So beautiful, beautiful, yeah." Like I love that song just because again the appreciation for women. And there's always like songs like that. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Michael Jackson's "Human Nature" is one that really sticks out. Like there's just so many nice calming songs that really have a lot of meaning to them that I always appreciated. Now I'll ask you, Britt, what are some of the ones that mean like the most to you as far as songs go? Yeah.
So when I was younger, my dad used to sing this song to me, Que Sera Sera. It means whatever will be, will be. It's tattooed on my chest. So that's always been like one of my favorites. So whenever I'm thinking of him, or if that song even comes on, I automatically think of him and anything like Bob Dylan, because that was his guy all the time. He would blast that. So definitely when I hear those come on, it just reminds me of good times.
And for you, Nikki Addams, what songs really stick out and are memorable to you?
Well, one of my absolute favorite songs ever is "Amazing" by Aerosmith, because if you take the time to listen to the words to that song, there is one lyric in that song that has really resonated with me, especially when you are maybe having a hard time in your life. Is "With the blink of an eye, you finally see the light." And sometimes in your life, it really, like, you wouldn't believe it until it happens. But there have been times where all of a sudden I was like, oh, well, that, like, everything's okay now. I, like, whatever, like, you've made it through the challenge or whatever time you were going through. And that song has always been a song that has really impacted me and helped me through my life.
Amen to that. And I mean, for me, it's one of those things like we talk about the pop genre as well on here. So for me, as a kid growing up in the 90s, like obviously you had your Backstreet Boys, your NSYNC, your 98 Degrees, and there was the J14s were big and the overall influx of boy bands during that time. And like on the rock side, I would listen to like Korn and I would listen to any rock music I could get. Like my dad was big into Poison. My mom liked a lot of Motown. So I had a lot of influence from my parents. But for me, it's one of those things. Like I was always an R&B guy, and my best friend Steve Nicofora. Well, I remember when he actually asked me this because I forgot what R&B song it was, but it was an R&B song, and he goes, "Mike Larkin, you like that panty dropping music, don't you?" And I said, yes, I do. And I laughed just because of the way he worded that. Because if you actually think about it, yes, a lot of that type of music leads to that action. Yes. Anyway, I digress. It's one of those things where there's a lot of R&B songs that are very meaningful from the ballads. Like for God's sake, man, I remember like we touched upon last time, the music space, the friggin' monster ballads with songs like Bad English, and Silent Lucidity. That's right. Like there was a lot of stuff I remember being advertised in the Body and Soul compilations that had like Brian McKnight on it. There was a lot of music at the fingertips, and the Columbia House Records going through the catalog. For God's sake, hey, circle that CD. I want to buy it. You know what I'm talking about, Brett.
Yep, I do.
Now, for you, Nikki, were you also part of that? Like, yeah, Columbia House Records. Like for me, just actually going out in the art form of buying a CD from the Wiz, located on Bayshore, New York, Bayshore, Long Island, Bayview. Like that time period, just going to get your CDs, through the catalogs, looking at what was advertised on TV, like the music space realm. Like those are some badass times right there, and encompassed a lot what music would be.
I remember getting the stuff in the mail, like where you could look, what's, like, I guess what CDs you could order, definitely. But we never really ordered them. Like, if anything, our mom would take us to the store, and, like, I guess you could get whatever you wanted. Like, I definitely bought CDs. Um, I don't remember what my first CD is, but for some reason I remember what my sister's first CD purchase was ever, and that was Dookie by Green Day.
That's all.
And it might have been, I think she bought that, and I think she bought the Mariah Carey album that came out that year with it. I think those were the first, like, which are so polar opposite, which is hilarious. But, like, for me, I can't remember, because I think I just pretty much got musical influences mostly from her, you know, her being older. So, I mean, she went through some phases where she listened to, like, rap, and then she listened to, like, metal, and she listened to rock. So it's like, you name it, I heard it. And I'm pretty much familiar with, like, anything from that span of being 90s on.
So, all right, I got to comment on this because that actually gave me a chuckle with the Mariah Carey. So, me and Mariah go back like House of Fire. Sweet, Sweet Fantasy, I think, was the one around that time when Dookie came out. So, yep.
Probably.
Oh, man. But yeah, no, it's one of those things where I've also talked about the lost art of the CDs, like going out and buying a CD. Because, yes, I know everything's at our fingertips here now with the Spotify's and the iPods and, dare I say, hit clips from back in the day in the early 2000s. But yeah, man, just actually going out and buying the CDs. Like, I used to look forward to that over the weekends. Like, for God's sake, man, most of the CDs I have in my collection are from the Wiz. And it's just, it's one of those things that you just reminisce about, like where you were when you bought your first CD, where you were when you bought this and like that. So, I mean, there's a lot of good times that really are cherished throughout your lifetime from your music standpoint or what have you from the pop culture realm. Go ahead, Brett.
No, yeah, I definitely agree. I remember the first CD I ever got was No Doubt. My parents got it for me for Christmas. So it was definitely an exciting time when you would go out and purchase CDs. I remember how excited I used to get to purchase the Backstreet Boys CDs every time they came out with a new one.
Yes. So it's funny because it's funny because like my grandfather, God rest his soul, like I remember when Lou Bega's A Little Bit of Mambo came out and Mambo #5 was all over the radio station. Like I have that album on cassette and CD, right? Like when I got that for Christmas, my grandfather, God rest his soul, loved him some Mambo #5. So it's one of those things where like if you can actually vibe with your grandparents on Lou Bega's Mambo #5 and music, that's wonderful. Like I remember from the 40s, the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy Comfort Me by the Andrews Sisters, and then you see that sample later on with Christina Aguilera and Candyman. For God's sake, like you see a lot of samples that are encompassed. Like for look at the rap genre, you had Warren G and Nate Dogg with "Regulate," sample from Michael McDonald's. I keep forgetting. Like I mean, there's a lot of great samples and songs too. Go ahead, Britt.
No, yeah, I definitely agree. I listen to Halsey a lot, and there was one of her songs has, I forget whose lyric she used, but it was in there. And it like, you ever hear a lyric inside of a song and you're like, damn, I know what that is, but I like can't think of what it is. It was that kind of a moment. I have that a lot.
Go ahead, Nikki. Do you have a lot of moments like that we and myself just discussed?
I mean, I've always appreciated when songs, like newer songs, sample from some of the songs from the past, because I do think putting in like older styles into newer music is kind of, it's not like I happen to like older music. That's kind of my thing. So it's like when you hear it incorporated in today's music, you know that like, at least they have the respect for that, and they're like it's incorporating like old with new, and it's nice because a lot of people from like the younger like teenagers and stuff, they might not really be familiar with it. Like when you mentioned Christina Aguilera, the Back to Basics album was one of my favorites. And I kind of like the 40s and 50s vibe. Like I always kind of enjoyed that. Like I like swing music a lot, and people get very thrown off by that.
Hey man, I mean, it's funny like you mentioned like swing music, like oh my god, I mean, put on some freaking Jump Brian Setzer, Jump Jive and Wail, like for God's sake, like there's a lot of great stuff with like swinging. There's a lot of different type of music, like the 50s. Like I'll be honest with you, I used to love like Elvis, I used to love Blue Moon, I used to a lot of great songs from the 50s and 60s that really captivated going into the Motown era in the 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, the New Jack Swing era, for God's sake, where you had groups like oh my God, there's Teddy Riley. There's a lot of Bobby Brown was even mixed in there. His Paraga, Tiv. So, I mean, you had a lot of great music genres that really was the evolution of that, overall encompassing of music history, if you will. So, yeah, I'm right there with you in the 50s and the 40s as well, because, I mean, Aurora comes from Rio de Janeiro. I remember watching Abbott and Costello, Hold That Ghost when they performed that. So, I mean, there's a lot of great old-time movies, and you mentioned swing. Like, I am right there with you. I can appreciate the nostalgia of that, Nikki. So
I
yeah.
agree. Did you just like some of the old movies too. Did I like hear that right?
Well, I did. I mentioned Abbott and Costello, Hold That Ghost, because that's where I first heard about Aurora with the Andrews sisters.
It's one of my favorite movies. I'm not even gonna lie.
Really? Hold That Ghost, Abbott
Yeah.
and Costello? Oh, man. See? People, like, okay, Brittany, let me ask you something. Abbott and Costello, fan, yay, nay, Hold That Ghost? What are your thoughts?
I honestly haven't seen it, but my mom has seen it. My mom watches all those old films.
Got to get on it. You got to get on some Hold That Ghost, Abbott and Costello. Put on some Buck Privates. You'll hear some Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy up in there. Man, get up on that, Brittany Savage.
I will.
So, yes. So as far as like the old time stuff, and I'll be honest with you, like again, grandparents' influx there, like listening to 103.1 and friggin' back in the day, the oldie stations, and it's just, yeah, you just appreciate it. And I mean, it's one of those things where like you talked about like samples in music. Like I remember in 97 growing up in the 90s, like I'll Be Missing You by Puff Daddy and the Bad Boy Family. You had Faith Evans and 112 on the track, like sampling, Every Breath You Take by Sting and then performing with him at the VMAs that year. Like I enjoyed the samples. Like I think there was one where, oh my God, what's one of the most sampled one? I'm trying to think of it. It's going to bug me. I'll come back to that. But yeah, like I always appreciated the samples and that. Like for instance, Return to the Mac, Mark Morrison. Like for those that are not familiar with that, Chucky Booker had a song called Games, Why You Want to Play Your Games on Me. Like that has a little sample of that. So I always appreciated those type of samples from the 90s, the 2000s, what have you. So just going back to samples for a second, I totally understand and appreciate like the newer music and the older music. So yeah, I'm right there with you. So now let me ask you guys. All right, so for movies, I'm very eclectic with it, from horror, action, comedy. Now you, Brittany Savage, you're a big horror fan, so I got to ask you, if like we've talked about Halloween, a lot of horror films on this show, what one is really one that sticks out to you?
Honestly, my favorite, a lot of people laugh about it, but it's Scream. And the only reason I think it's my absolute favorite is because that was my first horror movie I've ever watched. I was 10. So Ghostface has always been my favorite serial killer. And honestly, you don't see him a lot. There's always like Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jason, and all that. But that one's definitely my all-time favorite. There's a lot of good horror movies out there, don't get me wrong, but that will forever be my favorite. Scream 1, definitely not the newest Scream because that one kind of shit the bed, but
Hey man, I was a fan of the scary movie with the whole "I'm gonna smash and bash and put a hole in your ass," and then he kills him. Then he kills everybody in Marlon Wayne's. That's the illest rhyme I ever heard, son. So, I'm right
yeah,
there.
Scary Movie 1 was good. The rest of the scary movies were kind of terrible.
Yeah. So Nikki Addams, favorite horror movie? What are we going with there?
Oh, favorite horror movie. That is a tough call. Because there's a lot to choose from. But I would have to say, I mean, I'm standard for like some of the Halloween movies. I thought those were pretty solid. And ironically, I have to say I enjoy Halloween 3. And I know that's like not a popular decision, but I actually didn't mind it.
Now, I can agree with you on that. Halloween 3 is not that bad. I've seen some of the Rob Zombie ones. Okay, now I'm going to say this. When Rob Zombie started doing the Halloweens, yay or nay on the series? I'll start with you, Savage.
Um, it was a bit of a mixed emotion because obviously in the Rob Zombie films, they're now using cell phones. And I felt if it was kind of based off of the original Halloweens, the John Carpenter ones, it should have kind of been played off like that. But I mean, from Rob Zombie's point of view, he's Rob Zombie. So for considering it was his work, it was good. I just, being a Halloween fan, I was just like kind of disappointed, but I didn't hate them. And plus, I love Sherry Moon. So I was like, all right, I can get behind this, but still kind of irked me a little.
Okay. Now, Nikki Adams, same question. With the Rob Zombie ones, as we saw in later years with the Halloween franchise, yay or nay? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, kind of the state. Like, I definitely like the traditional Halloween movies. Like, I do think, it's like when you watch any like remake of a movie, like, I really am a fan of the originals, but I didn't hate the new ones either because, it's like between Rob Zombie and John Carpenter, they're two totally different people. It's like you're getting just two totally different outlooks on the story, So like they've made some changes as well. So as long as you're open minded, they can a lot of people weren't open minded to them, and I think that might have been the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'll agree with that, and that's the thing. I think you have to be open-minded with certain films because I know it might not be the same as you once, saw it. But if you add a little flavor to it, and if you actually have a great adaptation interpretation of the film, it could make for a suspenseful thriller, whatever genre movie it is. If you ladies agree with that.
I totally agree, and I like it for the fact that Rob Zombie ended up using the little girl, Jamie, I think was her name, in the original Halloweens. I like the fact that she was in the first Halloween from Rob Zombie. I thought that was awesome.
I think for me too, also seeing Danielle Harris was also a plus.
Yeah, that's her name.
So
that's her name.
Okay, you got to understand something. So my first, my first visual of Danielle Harris in the '90s was the Boy Meets World episode where she played Harley Kiner's sister, and she was cute. And also the Wish Upon a Star film with Katherine Heigl. For those that remember that film, Danielle Harris is the shiznit when it came to Halloween.
Yeah, she was really good. Even back in the day, she was a very good actress when she was young, and then she obviously is going to remain that way. But I thought it was just cool that she was still in the Halloweens, though she was, killed off. But
Nikki, what were your thoughts on Danielle Harris and the Halloween franchises? Nikki, there you go. What were your thoughts?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll repeat the question.
The phone. Yeah, I think it cut out. Sorry. I think that I agree with Brittany. It was definitely, I think it was definitely cool that they incorporated old school with new school and just a different take on everything and still having her involved. I always enjoy stuff like that as well.
All right, perfect. Now, for me, I got to say this because we talked about this last time, Savage, and no, I'm not talking about Jennifer's body just yet. I wanted to incorporate this. Shush. So it's one of those things where, I was a fan of the single white female movies and Fear and The Roommate and stuff. Now, for you, we talked about the fact that you don't like seeing the dead animals in the films. Obviously, you're going to see a child or an adult or what have animals in it. Now, Nikki Addams, the question reverts over to you here. Now, does the killing of animals in the film, obviously it is a movie and there's a lot of interpretations of murders and killings in said films. Do the pet deaths, the animal deaths, get you more than the people deaths? I want to get your thoughts because Brittany brought up a great point in the last episode. Again,
the question is, how do I feel about killing of animals in movies?
Yeah, because Brittany brought up a great point.
I hate it. I hate it.
Okay. So, because I brought up...
I love animals, and every time I see, you see a scene and you see a horse or something, and you're like, I swear, if anything happens to this horse, it's like that.
Yeah, and something's going to happen to those animals.
So
and you don't like it, so yeah, you're just like, no.
Okay, because I brought up to the last one because she's never seen Single White Female, and you know where I'm going with this: the balcony, the fire escape, what have you, where the dog. And I mentioned Fear because the dog with the doggy door, and The Roommate, the spin cycle where the little kitty, bites the dust. So we've touched upon those films, but yeah, I can see it, and I'll be honest with you, it's not my favorite thing either. But yeah, the poor animals, man. And then like you mentioned, Halloween with the, So yeah, I'm right there with you, Savage.
Yeah, I mean, you don't, like I said, you don't see the dog die, but you hear the little cry, and it's like, oh, God. Amityville Horror, no.
Yep.
I can't. I love that movie, but, every time that part comes on, I, cover my eyes or I leave the room for a minute. I can't do it.
Oof, great point as well. Now, okay. See, this is where also... All right, now this is where Jennifer's body comes in before you say, God. Let me just explain this. So, okay. Now, since you automatically assume and make the automatic assumptions around here that it's just because of the girl-on-girl kiss with Megan Fox. Now, mind you, I don't think it's the greatest film on earth, but I'm just saying give it a chance. And going back to that open-mindedness, I'm saying it's not that bad because, again, Tommy Two-Tone, 8675309, while he's, sacrificing her, it's one of those things where it's not that bad in my eyes. So, Nikki Addams...
I've seen it twice.
Okay.
Just throwing it out there.
Whatever. So Nikki Addams, now it might not be the greatest film in the world. Jennifer's Body, and this one also cannot say anything after that. I Know Who Killed Me over there with Lindsay Lohan. So I gotta say this to you, Nikki Addams. The Jennifer's Body film, the adaptation that we had with the sacrifice and the whole thing that happens with Megan Fox in that film. What are your thoughts about the Jennifer's Body film that came out around the 2009 time period?
I can honestly say I am not sure for the fact that I have not seen it. So
Boom.
I am sorry.
Thank you, Nikki. It's a horrible movie. Do not watch it.
First,
Okay, I've never seen it. I don't know.
Do not. You're gonna waste your time. I mean, you might laugh at the part that he's saying that 876 whatever the phone number is. I'm pretty sure that's the only reason why you like the movie. To be honest.
Whoa, wait a minute here, Miss Whatever. You put some respect on Tommy Two Tone's name, man, because 8675309, Jenny, don't lose my number. Come on.
Sorry, there's so many phone numbers out there on commercial land, so like I can't keep track with them, but it's not a good film. I'm sorry.
Well, how do you think friggin' Kool and the Gang felt when they put out Joanna, and there's a lot of women out there named Joanna? You know what I'm saying? How do you think they felt? Because, I mean, guys were playing Joanna to Joanna. So, I mean, hey, it happens. We're taking back to the 80s here. But, yes, it's not the best film, but after you explained I Know Who Killed Me to me, yeah, it's ridiculous because I have seen bits and pieces of it because Lindsay Lohan is in a dual role, but the movie is absolute the drizzling shits, and I can say that proudly that movie is more of the drizzling shits than Jennifer's Body is. Go ahead with your retort, Miss Brittany Savage.
But didn't you say you've never seen that movie?
I've seen bits and pieces. I haven't seen
pieces. Go in there with an open mind. I straight up said it was a horrible film. It was so bad, and that's why I'm saying Jennifer's Body is horrible.
Okay, now Nikki Addams, going back to never seeing Jennifer's Body, have you at least seen I Know Who Killed Me, to what Brittany is referring to? It's kind of like one of those films where you're known Lindsay Lohan for her roles in The Parent Trap, Life Size, Freaky Friday, the list goes on and on. But seeing her in like this serious kind of like horror type film in a dual role, are you familiar with the film that we are talking about?
No, so I apologize for that as well.
No, don't watch it. It's a waste of time. It was so bad.
Yeah.
So bad.
I'm definitely not gonna watch it then.
She has like a fake leg, right? And she has to plug her leg into the wall.
Oh,
just to give you a brief description of the film. It's so bad.
Now, okay. So when I say that I've never seen it, the only part I remember is there a part in the film where she's like in the ground. There's like a part where there's like a grave thing. Like they think she's dead, but she's really not dead. It's like it's kind of like a mind fuck kind of deal in there. Am I remembering this correctly? I don't know if this is like spot on, but is it like something like that? I know she's in a dual role, if that makes sense.
She is in a dual role. I just honestly, I can't remember much about that film, and I don't really want to. I just remember that one scene because I was like so taken back by it.
Hey, man, I love Dana Carvey, and I actually sat through the entire Master of Disguise, and that pained me because I love Dana Carvey. I love movies like Clean Slate. I love Dana Carvey and Saturday Night Live. I love Wayne's World. But going to see the Master of Disguise as a 10-year-old at Islip Theater was absolutely painful, and it broke my heart, again, because I love Dana Carvey. Now, you can even admit that the Master of Disguise was terrible.
Horrible.
Now, Nikki Addams, have you seen the Master of Disguise with Dana Carvey?
I have. I can't say I remember a ton of it, but I don't think I enjoyed it very much.
Okay, fair assessment. Fair on one. It's one of those things where like I watched to the end because it has that Anastasia song, "Don't Stop Doing That Thing You Do. Your Sweet Love Is Making Me High." Oh yeah, the vocals on that was great. Like the soundtrack is great. It's one of those things where just the movie is the absolute shit. Now again, we've touched upon Swim Fan and how we love that movie so much because again, she's obsessive, and you have Sherry Appleby over here in a wheelchair. She throws her in the pool. Here comes Jesse Bradford. Here comes that Erica Christensen. Just it's perfect for the psychological and the psycho film and the psycho bitch. I'm not talking about Victoria that Erica Christensen played in the film. So I gotta say, Swim Fan is another one that's very underrated. Go ahead, Savage.
I love that film. I say that every time. That's like one of, not like my favorite, but it's definitely underrated.
Now, Nikki Addams, are you familiar with the film Swim Fan stars Sherry Appleby, Jesse Bradford, and Erica Christensen?
No.
Okay. No.
Sorry. I like keep bringing them up, like each thing up, and I'm like, no, every time. So
first and foremost, I'm just gonna.
You're fine.
We're giving you something. We're kind of giving you pros and cons and do's and don'ts on what's to watch. So it's actually it's kind of insightful.
Thank you.
But no, I mean, there's some good movies out there. Like, I'll be honest with you. Like, I remember seeing Johnny English, for God's sake, for those that remember that, with friggin' Mr. Bean. And oh my God, that movie was terrible. Like, See, you know what I'm talking about. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen some stinkers, but then I've seen some great films. Like, I loved going to see Creed and Rocky Balboa in the theaters, man, because I just loved watching him go against Mason the Lion Dixon, which still absolutely excellent with the Rocky films. So it's one of those things where you have good ones and you have bad ones, and there have just been a lot of stinkers. And for me, like, I was always the kid that loved the DComs, for God's sake, and thank God for Disney Plus. And by the way, I owe you an apology, Brittany Savage, because I legit thought Model Behavior was on Disney Plus. I was wrong. So I actually found a link where we have the movie, and I sent it your way. So I'll apologize on that front.
Yes, I have to check it out. Thank you. Because I went to go look for it on Disney Plus and I saw it wasn't there and I was like, lies. He lied.
So yeah, I was the Disney DCOM Wonderful World of Disney type of kid there. Now I gotta ask you, Nikki Addams, and it's okay if you say no, and there's no apology needed. But Disney Plus, like, are you about that Disney Plus? Because a lot of people during quarantine, whether it's not Netflix, we got Disney Plus now. So are you on those Disney Plus vibes or no?
Yes, I have Disney Plus, and I have been watching it on quarantine, like a breakdown of everything. But you see, also you mentioned the Rocky movies, and I got to say, I just watched all of them on quarantine because I love me some Rocky. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
get quite a mix of stuff to watch on quarantine. But I just watched Rocky Balboa like the other day too, and right before that I watched Rocky 5, which everyone like shits on.
Yeah, I love that one. Tell me you love that one.
I do.
Oh my God, I love you.
Gives it enough credit.
Yes, it's one of my favorites. 4 is my absolute favorite. 5 is so good because he's not inside of the ring and he's still going. I love it. Oh, so good. Thank you. You're like the first person that said it besides me.
I don't understand why people hate it so much. I'm like, this is a solid movie, and you get to see him like really get his whole him have to deal with the consequences of what happened in Rocky 4, and then in addition to have to deal with like financial situation and him going back to what his life was and accepting the fact that I guess he starts living through what the Tommy Gunn, and he has to learn life lessons of his own, even though he's like older, like the stuff he goes through with his son. I don't know. People shit on it. It's a good movie.
No,
I'm not sorry about that.
No, I totally agree with you because I feel like from a wrestling perspective, like once you leave wrestling, you always have that mentality and you can't like escape from it no matter how much you try. And I feel like with Rocky in 5, that's exactly what he was doing. Like he couldn't break away from that, boxing, that fighter mentality of his. But here he is basically starting over from scratch, moving back to Brooklyn. And his son ends up getting into a fight. And it's just, it's real life stuff. And that's why I think I like 5 a lot.
So
yeah, I agree. I mean, and I think it was well told. People just hated it for no reason. They don't know what they're talking about.
So if I could put it bluntly, first and foremost, if you don't like Rocky 5, bite me. And number two, it's one of those things where like Elton John, Measure of a Man, hello. If you can't get into that, come on now. And it's also number 3, one of the tidbits of that, the kid that he fights in for his jacket was E, who went on to be on Entourage, which was absolutely awesome. The dude that played E, Kevin Connolly, I believe his name was. That was the movie. So, and it's one of those things where like he goes back to Philly, take me back from the streets. Like I love that soundtrack too. And also you get to see Tommy Gunn. Who was your best friend back in Orlando? That's Oklahoma. Eric Elder. No. Your best friend's name is Frankie Fear. And just the overall lessons that you learn from that, and just him coming back, and George Washington Duke, come on, Pug, touch me and I'll sue, playing the old Don King type character. Like, it's a very underrated film, and if you don't like Rocky 5, come on. All right, because, oh, well, you see, he wasn't in the ring. They fought on the street. Shut the fuck up.
Like, it happens in real life. Like, people get me started on that film all the time, and I'm like, well, why don't you like it? It doesn't make sense. It's good. Exactly.
So, yes, Rocky 5, go see it, because it's good, and it's very underrated. Stop hating. Like, just stop hating. Like, it's good. Shut up. So, yeah, Rocky 5 rants aside. But I'm actually, now, Disney Plus, I'm kind of curious, because as far as Disney Plus, Nikki Addams, what have you been watching, or what have you been seeing on Disney Plus during these quarantine times?
I rewatched The Lion King recently. I've watched Aladdin.
Ooh, yeah. Live version or cartoon?
Both.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on, a few more are gonna come back to me. I also watched The New Lady and the Tramp and The Little Mermaid. Hold on, it's gonna come to me. Oh, and Toy Story 4. I rewatched that. I almost forgot.
All right. Great choices and a great mixture and a great variety there. For me, I still have, even though I was wrong about Model Behavior, I did save that link that I sent you, Brittany, to rewatch that film. I have Phantom of the Megaplex, Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire, the Halloween Town films. One other one that I put on here, I believe Hounded with Taj Mahal was actually very underrated. There's a couple of them, like the Even Stevens movies and just the movies that we've seen over the years, the Under Wraps, like so many Halloween-based, like we mentioned, Phantom of the Megaplex, and Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire. The Lizzie McGuire series I could just watch all day. Yeah, there's a variety of stuff, and of course the classics like The Lion King and Aladdin, which you so eloquently brought up there, which is awesome. So yeah, there's a lot of great mixture, man. And Miracle in Lane 2 is actually very underrated with Frankie Muniz. Who's not seen that film, that's actually not a bad one. That's actually very underrated for those. And Stepsister from Planet Weird, Courtney Draper from The Jersey, another one. Yeah, and of course Jet Jackson the movie. Like I won't be here all day, but yeah, good time. And Model Behavior. Here's the thing about Model Behavior. Like, I liked Maggie Lawson in that film playing the dual role, and Justin Timberlake, one of his first film roles before we saw like him in The Social Network, and all these movies combined, Friends with Benefits, and this was like a year before he was in On the Line with Lance Bass and Joey Fatone and Emmanuel Striquif. Those that remember that film. Yeah, it's just it's early Justin Timberlake stuff now, and of course you had Nobody's Angel, like I Can't Help Myself, Do You Want to Dance? Like Model Behavior was one that really like stuck out. Go ahead, Britt. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. What?
I was gonna say, what have you been watching on Disney?
I've watched Lady and the Tramp, the live version, also. 'Cause it was one of my favorite Disney movies growing up, and it actually was Brooks, also the cartoon version. So we watched that. We actually watched it twice. And the scene, I don't know if you've seen it before, but I know Nikki has. The scene with Tramp when his owner just like abandoned him like that. Oh my God, I just couldn't stop crying. It was so sad. So there's that. And then I watched Frozen 2. I honestly haven't been able to watch too much of Disney Plus, but I definitely have been watching a lot of Halloween Town because it's one of my favorites.
All right, I'm gonna be biased here. Like my Halloween Town ones, I'm all about 1 and 2. 3 was all right, and 4 pissed me the f off because Sarah Paxton replaced Kimberly J. Brown. It came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, it effed me up because I'm like, no, you got Kimberly J. Brown up in the series, and then you just put her out like that. I hated it, man. I'll be honest with you, I was in a mood about that for a little bit when that came out. But yeah, it's one of those things you can't go wrong with the Halloween Town series. But my 2 picks are 1 and 2, The Calabar's Revenge and the original. How about yourself, Britt?
Same. Once they switch characters, like it wasn't the same for me. So I kind of like, I still watched it, but I'm like, I'm not gonna rewatch it, you know?
Okay. Nikki Addams, as far as Halloween Town goes, where are we at on the Halloween Town series?
I unfortunately have never seen them either.
Oh,
Ooh, you
watch it.
have to watch those. I think
Watch
you would
it.
definitely like them.
Watch it.
Okay, I will definitely check them out. I love Halloween, so.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Now,
I think you would definitely like it.
Oh, I'm sure. I don't know why I've never seen them, but for some reason, I guess it just hasn't happened.
But that's a definite recommend. That's a definite stamp of approval on the Halloween Town. Now, of course, you got Debbie Reynolds.
They're cute. Those
yeah.
films are so cute.
So, but yeah, agreed. And another one I got to mention is, like, I'll be honest with you, I got to get more on the Netflix stuff, but the one that I did watch, and I know it comes up on yours, but I had to watch it because the dude from Myrtle Beach, where I am here in Myrtle Beach, from Myrtle Beach Safari, good old Doc Antle. Oh, another one who's probably going to go to jail like that damn Joe Exotic and Carol Baskin. I got to say this. I start watching that and I'm like, okay, Joe Exotic, he loves the Tigers, and then you just realize, holy hell, what the hell happened there? And the rest as the episodes and the series progresses. So, Nikki Addams, I must ask you, being the popular thing that it is on the Netflix vibes, have you seen The Tiger King?
I have seen Tiger King.
Man.
I couldn't help myself. I had to, and then I got super invested in it. I will just say it's complete madness.
Oh, Britt, and first and foremost, I had to again because of the Myrtle Beach thing, but goddamn, the accusations, the madness, just the whole nine, you know what I'm saying? And all right, here's what pissed me off. So the dude, first of all, the husbands weren't even gay. And number two, the fact that he's singing the song that he doesn't talk about, his balls are like golden nuggets at the funeral. It's a funeral. Like, why? All right, anyway, I'm going to get on a rant about that. I'm going to get mad. But yeah, you get invested from top to bottom. And Nikki Addams, you can agree with what I said there with my little mini rant there. But it's very bizarre, and it's very, you know what I'm saying? You get emotionally invested, but most of the investment that you get emotionally is madness. So I'm sorry, Nikki. Go ahead. I know I ranted a little on that.
No, it's okay. I just like the whole series. Like, literally, the title of the series makes sense. Like, the more you watch it, the more you're like, oh my god. But I do like one of the most tragic things in there is what happened to the guy Travis. Like,
yeah, the dude, and you know what it is too. Watching
that makes you like.
Yeah, the dude watches legit him shoot himself in the head, and it's like, holy hell. You know what I'm saying? Like, just the whole, everything that transpired in those events, it's just like, oh, you feel for him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't know. That's had to be hard to like, one, what happened obviously is terrible, but also for the guy that witnessed it, like, I imagine that was very hard to overcome.
Yeah. It has its moments, and I'll be honest with you. Let me ask you something about Carol Baskin, since it's become a TikTok sensation. Killed her. I can't convince me that didn't happen. I got to ask you, what are your thoughts about Carol Baskin there, Nikki Addams? Do you think she fed her husband to the Tigers? And what are your thoughts about her overall mission and her and Joe Exotic going at it?
I honestly can't say for sure what she did as far as her husband goes. I don't know. Like, a lot of people think she did, but like, there's not exactly a lot of proof. So it's a question mark. Like, who knows as far as that goes. As far as like their feud, like, I feel like overall, I think it was more sad because at the end of the day, it really should have been in the best interest for the animals.
True.
And like, that's really not what it's like. Like, it should have been what's best for like the tigers, the lions, etc. Like, not really trying to screw the other one over. But it's just my take.
No, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think they should have been more invested with the animals. You actually brought up a great point there. Like, it's all about the animals at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I know they said like most tigers and stuff, like, there's more of them I guess in captivity than there are in the wild at this point. But I think since like probably wouldn't be able to adapt into the wild at this point, it would be more on trying to get them like more space so they can at least live a quality life. But I don't know. I'm pro animal, so like everything's always about making sure the animals are good.
I'm right there with you. I'll be honest with you. As a kid, I still remember the stickers all over the place. Being a cat lover, being just an animal. But, I'll be honest with you. Like, growing up, I remember our cat Nikki, God rest her soul, Ashley and Scarlet. Now we got a little one now. It's one of those things where, like, the World Wildlife Fund and just animals, man, just the precious and the innocence and the love that you have for an animal is absolutely wonderful. And it's just overall, it's a part of the family, and you give them the same love that you would as your family members. But I digress. I know we're getting a little sentimental about the animal front, so I agree wholeheartedly. Now, Brittany Savage, you got to get on the Tiger King. Just watch like an episode or something, man. Open-minded.
I'm very open-minded, but
very insane. So I'm just gonna let you know, if you choose to watch it or not, it's definitely insane.
It's, dare I say, buck wild. Pretty savage.
I mean, well, maybe. I don't know. It's never really caught my interest too much. I've seen a lot of people talking about it, and I don't know. There's like a lot of sadness in the world, and especially when animals are involved. I don't know what happens to the animals, but it doesn't sound good. So I don't know. I'm a very sentimental person, so I don't know.
Yeah,
sensitive.
There's definitely parts that would upset you because it upset me. Well, we'll
Yeah.
say, like, the same thing. So you know how like you'll turn on Netflix and like if you don't make a selection fast enough, like the first thing that's like trending or whatever, it'll start playing you the trailer.
Yeah.
Like, automatically
it starts playing the first episode, and
that's what happened. And like I was doing something and like stuff just kind of came on, and then like all of a sudden you're like, wait, what's happening? And now you're like, well, let me just follow up to see, like, because like one thing sparked your interest and there you were, and that was that.
Yeah, every time I'm watching something on Netflix, it just like automatically comes on. I'm like, nope, change. I'm like, change really quick. I don't know if I could do it.
Ooh. Well, I will say it's an emotional roller coaster ride, very bizarre, and it gets you into it. But yeah, if you decide to watch it, just be aware.
Yeah,
So
I don't think it's gonna happen.
that's all right.
I'm probably not gonna jump on that show.
It's all good, but something that we all can jump on, and I got to say this, people, if you've not seen Nikki Addams' work from Empower, from every MYWC, from Creative Pro Warriors of Wrestling, get on that. Type in Nikki Addams in your YouTube search and watch some badass matches. Same with you, Brittany Savage, for those that are unfamiliar with both of these ladies' careers. Ladies, I'm going to say this. I'd love to do this again in the future. The overtures here. Nikki Addams, it's always a pleasure getting to interview you for the On the Mic with Mike series, and it's fun that we got to experience some pop culture and wrestling in this forum today. So anytime you want to come back on with us, you're more than welcome. And really, thank you again for doing this.
Oh, thank you so
Yes,
much for
thank
having
you.
me. I had a blast.
So finally, I got to say this before we promote the social media. Guys, check out Max Wrestling UK, the Max Wrestling podcast on YouTube, Twitter, and whatever audio platforms you get the podcast. Brittany Savage coming out with the first win against Travis the Walker Anderson in the promo league. Brittany, amazing promo. Congratulations on the dub.
Thank you. It was very fun. That was my first promo like that in a long time. Um, so I definitely had fun with it, and Travis definitely cut a good promo as well. So I give him a lot of credit, and it was fun. So thank you, Mike, and thank you, Travis, and thank you everyone involved with Promo League.
So if you want to check out the promo, link will be in the description on the SoundCloud. It's Brittany Savage versus Travis the Walker Anderson on the Max Wrestling YouTube. Just type in Max Wrestling. Nikki, I will also send you this link as well because Brittany absolutely killed it with the promo game, and we're having a lot of fun. What's great about Max Wrestling is we have the alternative with trivia challenges. Besides analyzing, dissecting, and deciphering professional wrestling as a whole, we provide trivia challenges and promo challenges, which is kind of fun because at the end of the day, we're all fans and we all respect the great art form and sport that is professional wrestling. So I will send you that link after this as well.
Oh, awesome. I totally look forward to seeing it.
Alrighty. So on that note, I will say this. Brittany Savage, I will let you start first. My co-host, the Twitter, Instagram, where people can find you as well on the social media front doing the damn thing. Go right ahead.
All right. Instagram is at the Brittany Savage. I just restarted my Instagram, so you can definitely follow me on that one. And then my Twitter, I'm so bad at. It's at the Brittany Savage? Question mark.
The Britty Sav. The Britty
The
Sav.
Brittany Sav. Okay, there we go. The Brittany Sav. Okay, that's where you can check me out.
And for you, Miss Nikki Addams, we get to see a lot of great work with Empower, like we mentioned, and your work over the years. Please let us know where we can follow the Black Rose.
Okay, on Instagram, it is at Nikki Addams, and on Twitter, it's at the Nikki Addams. I don't know, again, like kind of like Brittany, like I don't know why I didn't make them both the same. That would have been but right. So Instagram is just at Nikki Addams, Twitter is at the Nikki Addams, and obviously Nikki Addams on Facebook. And since you mentioned Empower as well, everyone can check out empowerwrestling.com. And as soon as quarantine is over, there is some big stuff coming there for women's wrestling. So please stay tuned.
And please check out that badass team of Nikki Addams and Candy Cartwright. Empower Tag Team Champs, the champ. I mean, can we really expect anything else from you, Nikki, from Warriors of Wrestling, La Femme? I mean, come on. NYWC Starlet Champ, numero uno, first champ. There we go. Is it really a shocker that you have a belt around your waist?
It always is a shock. You know, you work really, really hard, but like, you know, you're never promised anything. So you just hope that your hard work pays off. So it's always a shock and a pleasant surprise.
Amen to that. And I will actually say this since you actually mentioned working hard. People, these two ladies right here are some of my favorite people and favorite talents. Check out some of their stuff if you have not. There's a lot of great matches, a lot of great moments, and a lot of entertaining shenanigans also involved as well. I got to say, you two are some of the best when it comes to professional wrestling, not just women's wrestling, but professional wrestling. And I got to say, I appreciate you both to close this out.
Thank you.
I truly meant each and every word of that. So, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes episode 175 of the Pop Culture History Podcast. My name is Mike Larkin for Nikki Addams, for Brittany Savage. Thank you guys for listening. And, Nikki, thank you for coming on once more.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I had a great time. Thank you for having me. And Brittany, it was really great to reminisce and catch up on stuff as well.
Yes, for sure. Definitely was a fun time.
All right, guys, we are out.